best bites forever.
Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm making one of my all-time favorite Puerto Rican dishes, pastelon. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so, and let's rock it out. The first thing that I'm going to do is chop up some garlic, and the easiest way that I have found to do this is to start off with the back side of your knife. So yes, the side that is not sharp. This pretty much just crushes the garlic cloves up and makes mincing super fast. Once I go over my cloves with the back of my knife, I then go over them with the sharp side. Once again, there's the back side of my knife, and I'm just going to show you, see how it just crushes it right up. So much easier than slicing it and then slicing it smaller. Then just go back over it with the sharp side. I'm going to cut up like 2 to 3 tablespoons of garlic cloves, and then I'm going to add that into my meat. Here I have 2 pounds of ground beef, and this is an 85-20. You can use a 90-10 also, which works really well because it's slightly less greasy, but this happened to be what is available. My meat is a little bit frozen here, so I'm just going to work it in. Make sure you're not squeezing the meat as you go, but just kind of breaking it up and using your fingers to mix it around. I also added in a teaspoon and a half of kosher salt and probably a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper into that. I have a sheet pan here that I've set over to the side, and I'm going to start cutting up my plantains. The first thing that you do is just trim off each end and then do a nice little slice with your knife all the way down the length of it. Use your fingers to kind of open that up a little bit and peel it back. They should be nice ripe plantains. They can be pretty brown, like you definitely don't want to use green for this. The sweeter, the better for sure. Now I just want to lay this little guy down on the cutting board, and if you can get the bend end to lay kind of flat, it makes it a lot easier to cut these up evenly, but if you can't, just kind of follow along the bend. We're trying to get 4 slices out of each one of these plantains, so just carefully use your knife, and I'm just kind of taking advantage of the length of my knife and holding my plantain together while I push down into it. You can see here that I have my 4 slices. There's one. These 2 are stuck together, but see, they are sliced apart, and I'm kind of going for this thickness-ish. You can make them a little bit thinner, just kind of depending on the size of your plantains. We're using 8 plantains, and we're trying to get 4 slices from each. Go ahead and put them all onto your sheet pan, and just put this over to the side for a minute while we work on other things. So over here in this bowl, I'm going to start the egg layer. I need a total of 8 eggs going into my bowl. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8, of course. We are going to be adding some heavy cream and milk into this. I have a 1/2 cup of each, heavy cream and milk. You can also use 1 cup of half and half, or just use a cup of whole milk if that's what you happen to have in the house. I also added about a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and another 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper into this. I want to mix this up really well and make sure that all of my yolks are broken and mixed in. The next thing that I'm going to do is butter my pan that I'm going to be baking my delicious pastelon in. So you can do it like this, like kind of holding onto the stick, but let me show you a trick that my grandmother showed me when I was really little, which is just cut off a little piece of butter like that and take a paper towel and just use your hand, like kind of move it around. This makes it a lot easier to get into those little corners and crevices that you can't necessarily get into if you're just moving the stick around in there. So go ahead and butter that pan up really well and put it over to the side. Here I have some achiote oil, and if you don't know how to make this, you make it by cooking olive oil with achiote seeds. I usually have some on hand, and I do want to show you because I overcooked my achiote oil the other day, and this is what it looks like. If you burn the seeds, it actually gets like this weird kind of yellow rust color instead of this beautiful deep like orange gorgeousness, and it smells really bad when you burn it too, so you're going to be able to tell the difference if you overcook it. Plus, you can kind of see that's like little burnt dust down in there. If your achiote looks like that, throw it out and start over because it will make your whole dish taste terrible. I'm also going to leave a link for you to make that achiote oil. If you are unable to get the seeds or have an issue like that, just go ahead and use a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. The next thing that I've added in here is 2 cups of sofrito, and if you are Puerto Rican, you probably already have some of this made in your fridge, but if you don't know what it is, it's a combination of onions, garlic, recao or cilantro, and ajo peppers, or you can also use bell peppers. I will also leave a link to how to make that down below and in the iCard above. So I make mine ahead of time and I freeze it in 1 cup portions because I use it so much. It's just much quicker to have some on hand. So I have mine frozen in the freezer where you keep frozen stuff, and I just pulled it out. I have my 2 cups going. I've also started a pan over here where I'm going to start frying up those plantains in just a minute. Here, back to my sofrito, which is looking gorgeous. By the way, I did give just a dash of salt and pepper into there, also kosher salt, of course. I'm going to go ahead and add that meat mixture in once my sofrito is letting out some of its juices and, you know, kind of softening up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add this meat in there, and we don't have to add any additional salt at this point because remember we already added salt and pepper into this meat earlier. So I'm just going to cook this around until it starts to get some really lovely browning on it, and then I'm going to add in my green beans. Now this is kind of up to you. I use between 3/4 of a pound and like 1 pound of green beans. You can also use asparagus or another green vegetable if you would prefer. Totally up to you. I'm into the green beans, but again, hey, your choice. I'm going to go ahead and use that as kind of a little platform for my platanos to hang out on. So I have my sheet pan on my meat. Good culinary decision? I don't know. It's working for me. I'm going to go ahead and get these plantains going. I have my oil somewhere between 325 and 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm just looking for a really light golden brown on these. You don't want them dark, and don't worry about putting a bunch of them in your pan at once. I actually do all of mine in 2 batches. Just make sure that you don't overflow the oil because that will definitely be a problem. You only need to fry them for a couple of minutes until they are light golden brown, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. We are over here at our baking pan, and I went ahead and added maybe just a little bit less than 1/3 of my egg mixture down into the bottom, and I'm going to start adding in those plantains. I have my layer, and you can see that color that was on them. The next thing that I'm adding in is some cheese, and this is a 1/2 pound of mozzarella mixed with a 1/2 pound of cheddar. Just want a nice even layer of that. The next thing going down is my meat and green bean mixture. Again, I just want to spread this out and make sure that I have a nice even layer. You want to make sure every bite has everything in it, right? So the next thing going down is another layer of the plantains, and don't worry if they've broken up a little bit. As long as you have a nice little layer of them, it's not a big deal. You're not even going to know when it's all finished up. Go ahead and pour another 1/3 of that egg mixture before adding another layer of cheese and spreading that out nice and evenly. Again, another layer of meat. I mean, it's very much like building a lasagna. Yummy Puerto Rican lasagna. That is what I'm talking about. Another layer of plantains, another layer of cheese, and for this top layer, we're going to go ahead and add the rest of our egg mixture. I like to press mine down a little bit just to kind of, you know, make everybody kind of squish together a little, and I decided to go ahead and add a little bit of extra mozzarella on the top because it was looking a little bit skimpy to me, to be honest. So this is looking happy, and I am ready to put it into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. I'm just looking for everything to get nice and melty. You want to wait at least 20 minutes before serving it though, or this will happen. You'll have that little watery bit because everything didn't get a chance to solidify, but what can I say? We were really hungry. This is what it looks like all plated up, and I hope that you enjoy this recipe. Hey, thank you guys so much for stopping by today, and if you are not already a subscriber, now would be a great time to go ahead and click that button and become a subscriber. Thank you so much again for hanging out with me, and happy cooking, everyone!
bestbitesforever.com